The year was 2087, and the people of Earth were proud. They had just built their first real home on Mars. Scientists, engineers, and brave space travelers worked there, studying the red planet and learning how to live away from Earth. Then everything changed. A huge ship appeared near Earth's moon. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The ship had strange lights and moved in ways that seemed impossible. For 3 days, the ship just waited there. World leaders met in emergency meetings. Military forces went on high alert. Regular people looked up at the night sky with worry and wonder. On the 4th day, the ship sent a message. The aliens called themselves Xylonians. They said they came from a group called the Galactic Council. This council had over 300 different kinds of intelligent beings from many planets, and they had ruled the stars for thousands of years. The Xylonians wanted to meet with Earth's representatives. They chose the new Lunar Diplomatic Center on the Moon for this historic meeting. Captain Alan Wilson was picked to lead the Earth team. He had been the first commander of the Mars colony and was known for his calm thinking. As his shuttle approached the Lunar Center, Wilson looked out at the alien ship in the distance. It made Earth's best spaceships look like toys. "Remember," Wilson told his team, "we represent all of humanity today." The Xylonians were tall beings with smooth blue-gray skin and large eyes. Their ambassador, called Zekthar, spoke perfect English through a small device on his chest. "Humans," Zekthar said with a slight bow. "The Galactic Council welcomes Earth to the greater community of intelligent life." The meeting room was tense. Wilson noticed how the Xylonians looked at the humans, like adults looking at children. There was a smile on Zekthar's face, but his eyes seemed cold. "We offer Earth a place in the Council as a protectorate species," said Zekthar. "This is a great honor. Few new species are found worthy of direct Council contact." Wilson asked what protectorate meant. Zekthar explained that new species needed guidance. The protectorate status would last about 200 Earth years. During this time, Earth would get new technology, protection from dangerous space threats, and trading rights with some Council worlds. In return, Earth would give some of its resources to the Council and follow Council laws. "This is the standard path for all new species," said Zekthar. All current Council members began as protectorates. Wilson felt something was not right, but he couldn't put his finger on it. He had been told to accept these terms for now, while Earth's governments thought about the offer. "We thank the Galactic Council for this generous offer," Wilson said carefully. "Earth accepts protectorate status while our full response is prepared." Zekthar seemed pleased. "Excellent. Council representatives will arrive soon to begin the cultural exchange and resource surveys." After the meeting, Wilson sat alone in his quarters on the moon base. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. In his gut, he felt that the Xylonians weren't telling the whole truth. What Wilson and the rest of humanity didn't know was that in the Council's 40,000-year history, no species had ever moved up from protectorate status. The classification was actually permanent, though no Xylonian would ever admit this. The Galactic Council had just added another world to its collection. And Earth, despite all its achievements, was now little more than a new servant to ancient masters. But the Council had never met humans before, and they had no idea what was coming. 5 years passed since the aliens first came to Earth. Humans got used to seeing Xylonians and other Council species at the new Galactic Embassy in Geneva. Many Earth nations sent their brightest people to work with the aliens and learn from them. Dr. Elizabeth Shaw was one of these people. She studied how different species talk and think. At the new Galactic Studies Institute, she spent long hours learning the languages of Council aliens. One night, Shaw was reading official Council documents about trade laws. Most humans found these papers boring, but Shaw saw them differently. She noticed strange patterns in how the Council wrote their rules. "This isn't right," she whispered to herself. Shaw grabbed more documents and spread them across her desk. She worked through the night, comparing different versions of Council laws. By morning, Shaw had made an important discovery. The council's legal language had hidden traps. Words that seemed simple had secret meanings when used in council courts. Agreements that looked fair were actually one-sided when read by council judges. Shaw needed to tell someone she could trust. She called Richard Becker, Earth's ambassador to the council. He came to her office right away. "Look at this section about resource sharing," Shaw said, pointing to a document. "It says Earth gives reasonable portions of minerals to the council, but in their legal language, reasonable means as much as the council wants to take." Becker looked worried. "Are you sure about this?" "I've checked it 3 times, Shaw said. "The whole treaty is like this. There are hidden meanings everywhere." At the same time, in Arizona, engineer Samantha Foster was making her own discovery. She worked at a research center where humans and Cylonians studied together. Foster noticed that the aliens never shared their best technology. They taught humans some new things but kept the important secrets for themselves. Foster also found that council ships were taking regular samples of Earth's plants, animals, and water. The aliens said this was just for study, but the amounts seemed too large. One day, Foster secretly copied files from a Cylonian computer. The files showed the council's real plans for Earth. They wanted our water, rare metals, and biological materials. Earth was rich in things some council species needed. Foster sent her findings to Becker, who compared them with Shaw's work. The picture became clear. The Galactic Council was not the friendly group they pretended to be. Becker called an emergency meeting with Earth's top leaders. In a secure room deep under Geneva, Shaw and Foster showed what they had learned. "The Council has done this before," Shaw explained. "They find new species, offer protection, and slowly take what they want. They never use weapons. They use words and laws instead." "How many species have fallen for this?" asked the president of the European Alliance. "From what I can tell, hundreds," Shaw answered. "Some have been protectorates for thousands of years. They're basically slaves now, working mines and farms for the council." The room was silent. Humans had thought they were joining a friendly group of advanced aliens. Instead, they had signed papers that would slowly turn Earth into a resource colony. "Can we break the agreement?" someone asked. "Not easily," Becker said. "The Council's legal system is 40,000 years old. They've made it nearly impossible to escape once you sign." "Nearly impossible," Shaw said, "but perhaps not completely impossible. I found some interesting things in their oldest laws." The President of the United States stood up. "Then we need to act now, before they take more from us." "Dr. Shaw, Ambassador Becker, I'm putting you in charge of finding a way out of this trap." The fight for Earth's future had begun, but it would not be fought with guns and ships. It would be fought with words, laws, and human cleverness. William Carter sat in a small room deep under the Rocky Mountains. He was a military man, but not the kind who led troops into battle. Carter was a strategist, someone who found clever ways to win without fighting. Now, at 62 years old, he faced the biggest challenge of his life. Around a large table sat 12 people from different countries. Dr. Shaw and Ambassador Becker were there. So was Samantha Foster, who had discovered the Council's plans in Arizona. The others were lawyers, language experts, and intelligence agents from around the world. "Welcome to Project Loophole," Carter said. "Our job is to find a way out of the Council's trap. We need to do it quietly, so the aliens don't notice what we're doing." For weeks, the team studied thousands of Council documents. Shaw taught them how to read the special language used in Council laws. They learned about cases where other species had tried to change their status with the Council. All had failed. "The Council's legal system is like a maze with no exit," Becker said one day. "They've had 40,000 years to close every possible escape route." "Every maze has a solution," Carter replied. "We just need to look at it differently." They brought in Nancy Chen, a lawyer famous for finding loopholes in difficult contracts. Chen spent days reading Council laws until her eyes were red. Finally, she found something. The Council's definition of sentient representation as a weakness, Chen explained to the team. To challenge Council decisions, a species needs to be a full member, not a protectorate. But I found an old rule that defines what makes a full member. The team leaned forward as Chen pointed to a section of text on her screen. According to this, a species can claim full membership if they can articulate a fundamental axiom of galactic governance, not previously recorded in the Council archives. What does that mean? Foster asked. It means if we can say something true about how the galaxy should be governed that no one has officially said before, we might qualify as full members, Shaw explained. That sounds too easy, Becker said. Surely other species have tried this. Chen nodded. They have. But the Council judges have always rejected their statements as not truly fundamental or as just repeating existing ideas. The rule was made 30,000 years ago as a symbol, not as a real path to membership. Carter thought for a moment. But if we could find the right words, in the right form, and get them officially recorded, then we might have a legal way to change our status, Chen finished. But we would need to understand how the Council validates such statements. The team began to work on 2 tracks. Half studied how the Council chamber on the alien homeworld recorded and confirmed official statements. The other half worked with Shaw to develop the perfect statement that would qualify as a new fundamental axiom. Meanwhile, Becker used his position as ambassador to make contact with other protectorate species. This was risky. The Council did not encourage such direct communication, but Becker found ways to meet quietly with representatives from the Neltherans, a species that had been under Council rule for over 3,000 years. The Nelveran diplomat, Filari, was surprised by Becker's directness. You humans understand quickly what took us centuries to see, she said in a whispered meeting at the edge of a garden. The Council uses words as chains. Have your people ever tried to challenge them? Becker asked. Filari's large eyes looked sad. Many times, but the Council system is designed to keep us powerless. We have studied their laws for generations and found no way out. We might have found something, Becker said carefully. Would your people be willing to work with us? Filari looked around nervously, then nodded. Yes, and I know others who would join too. We have waited too long for someone to break the Council's hold on us. As Becker left the meeting, he felt both hope and fear. Humanity was not alone in wanting freedom, but now they were planning something that might anger the most powerful group in the galaxy. Dr. Shaw worked late into the night. Her office walls were covered with notes about the Galactic Standard Language. This was the language all Council species used for official business. After months of study, Shaw knew it better than any other human. She had made an important discovery. Galactic Standard was not just a way to talk. It was part of how the Council controlled other species. The words and grammar had hidden rules that gave power to the old Council species and took power from newer ones. The language itself is a trap, Shaw said to herself. Her computer showed patterns of Council speeches over thousands of years. Shaw saw how the words were used to keep protectorate species believing they might one day become full members. There was a knock at her door. Keith Alvarez came in, carrying coffee for both of them. He was a young mathematician who had joined the Loophole team. I've been looking at those language patterns you found, Alvarez said. I think I can create a math model to show exactly how the power balance works in Galactic Standard. Shaw smiled. This was why she liked working with Alvarez. He could turn language into numbers and patterns. Together, they began working on a new version of Galactic Standard, one that kept all the legal rules but changed the hidden power structure. Meanwhile, Carter and Chen discovered something disturbing. They had gotten secret information from the Loophole agents inside the Council data systems. The reports showed that many protectorate species were treated very badly. Some of these worlds have been reduced to nothing but mines and farms, Carter told the team at their next meeting. The Geradians have been under Council control for 6,000 years. They once had cities and art. Now they just dig rare metals for Council ships. We need to work faster, Becker said. The Council representatives are starting to ask more questions about our resources. They're planning to increase what they take from Earth. Chen pointed to a section of Council law on the big screen. I found something else. There's this old law that says a species can claim full membership by articulating a fundamental axiom of galactic governance, not already in the records. What's an axiom? Foster asked. It's a basic truth that everyone agrees on, Shaw explained. This law says if we can state a new basic truth about how the galaxy should be governed, we qualify for full membership. That can't be so simple, Becker said. It's not, Chen replied. The Council judges always reject these attempts. They say the statements aren't truly new or truly fundamental. This law was created as a symbol, not as a real path to membership. Shaw stood up excitedly. But what if we could create a statement in our modified version of Galactic Standard, one that the Council's own systems would have to recognize as valid? Alvarez nodded. The Council uses technology in their Grand Chamber to translate and validate official statements. If we could understand how that system works. I might know someone who can help, Becker said. My Nelvaran contact mentioned a Verashian who once worked on maintaining the chamber systems. While the team continued their work on Earth, Becker traveled to a Council space station to meet secretly with representatives from other protectorate species. They formed a group called the Liberation Compact. Each species shared what they knew about Council laws and systems. The Verashian engineer explained how the chamber validation system worked. It checked statements against all previous Council records and could tell if a statement was truly new. If a statement passed this test and met the definition of a fundamental axiom, the system would automatically record it as valid. Back on Earth, Shaw and Alvarez used this information to perfect their modified statement. They needed the exact right words in exactly the right form. If this works, Shaw told Carter, we won't just help Earth. We could free dozens of species from Council control. Carter nodded. But we'll only get one chance. If we fail, the Council will close this loophole forever. Ambassador Becker moved carefully through the crowded space station. This place, called Trading Post 7, was one of the few locations where representatives from different protectorate species could meet without drawing too much attention. Council officials rarely visited this far from the main travel routes. In a small private room, Becker met with Thulari from the Neltharans. She had brought friends, representatives from 5 other protectorate species. They sat around a table, each looking nervously at the door. We are taking a great risk by meeting like this, said a small green-skinned being named Zort. The Council forbids protectorate species from forming alliances. That rule itself shows their fear, Becker replied. They know we are stronger together. The aliens shared their stories. The Nelvarans had been under Council rule for over 3,000 years. The Verashians for 2,100 years. The others had similar tales. All had once believed they would eventually become full Council members. All had slowly realized this would never happen. My ancestors built great cities and studied the stars, said Thulari sadly. Now we mine resources for Council ships and grow food for Council worlds. The group agreed to form the Liberation Compact. Each species would share what they knew about Council law and technology. Together, they might find a way to challenge the system that had controlled them for so long. A Verashian named Krell offered ancient Council documents that were thought to be lost. The Keltar representative shared knowledge about Council technology. Each species had kept small secrets from their masters. Now they brought these pieces together. Back on Earth, Lisa Howard joined the Loophole team. She was a historian who specialized in how powerful groups wrote history to make themselves look good. Howard studied the Council's official histories of its member species. These histories are full of lies, Howard told the team. The Council makes it seem like all species were violent and unstable before they arrived. The story is always the same. The Council saves each species from itself. Howard worked with the Liberation Compact to find the true histories of their species. They discovered that many had been peaceful and advanced before Council contact. The Council had not saved them. It had conquered them with words and laws instead of weapons. The Council maintains power through controlling information, Howard explained in a secure video meeting with representatives from all the compact species. They make everyone believe they are needed for peace and order. Meanwhile, Dr. Shaw and Alvarez made progress with their modified version of Galactic Standard. They created a statement that would qualify as a fundamental axiom of galactic governance. The statement looked simple but contained a powerful idea. That true authority comes from the consent of those being governed, not from tradition or history. Will the Chamber's system accept this? Carter asked during a team meeting. According to our Verasian friend, it should, Shaw replied. The system checks if a statement is truly new and meets the definition of a fundamental axiom. Our statement does both. The team started planning how to deliver their statement in the council chamber. They would need perfect timing and a distraction to keep the council representatives from stopping them before the chamber system could validate the statement. The Centennial Conclave is in 2 months, Becker said. All council species will be represented. Earth will be invited to observe as a protectorate. That's our best chance. Carter nodded slowly. Then we have 2 months to perfect our plan. After that, either all protectorate species will have a path to freedom, or... He didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what failure would mean. The council would discover their secret meetings and knowledge. Earth would be punished, perhaps reduced to the same sad state as the older protectorate worlds. We won't fail, Shaw said firmly. The council has ruled through words for 40,000 years. Now we'll use their own words against them. The Lufol team knew they only had one chance to make their plan work. The Centennial Conclave was just 2 weeks away. This special meeting happened once every 100 years. All council species would attend, even the protectorates like Earth. Carter gathered the team for final preparations in their underground base. Our plan has 3 parts, he explained. First, Ambassador Becker will present an official petition for better trade terms. This is just a distraction. The council will reject it, as they always do. While the council is busy rejecting the petition, Shaw continued, I'll be in position with our special statement. We need to get it into the chamber's validation system at exactly the right moment. Alvarez showed a complex diagram on the screen. The chamber uses this pattern to validate statements. Our modified version of Galactic Standard matches this pattern perfectly. The system should recognize our statement as a valid axiom. And the third part? Asked Howard. The Liberation Compact, Carter replied. All our allies are prepared to act once our statement is validated. Each species will immediately submit their own petitions for full membership based on our new axiom. The days passed quickly. The team checked and double-checked every detail. They practiced different scenarios. What if the council grew suspicious? What if the chamber system was changed? They had to be ready for anything. Becker received word from a Nelvaran friend that council officials were watching Earth more closely. Senior Counselor Vexthar, a high-ranking Xylonian, had noticed increased human activity and communication with other protectorates. Vexthar is suspicious, Becker told the team. But the Xylonians have ruled for so long, they can't imagine anyone could challenge them. They think we're just being difficult. Finally, the day came. The human delegation left for the council homeworld, a planet called Ceylon Prime. Shaw, Becker, and 2 others represented Earth. The rest of the team stayed behind to coordinate with their allies. The council homeworld was an amazing sight. Massive crystal buildings reached into the pink sky. Ships from hundreds of worlds flew between the towers. The Grand Chamber itself was an enormous dome in the center of the capital city. Inside, thousands of representatives sat in rising circles. The oldest and most powerful species had seats at the bottom, near the central platform. Protectorates like Earth had small seats at the very top, far from the action. Senior Counselor Vexthar opened the conclave with a speech about the council's long history of peace and prosperity. He talked about how the council had guided the galaxy for 40,000 years. He never mentioned that most species in the room had no real power. After many speeches and ceremonies, it was time for petitions. This was the one time protectorates could speak directly to the full council. Becker stood and was recognized by the chamber system. The people of Earth request improved trade terms and resource exchange rates, Becker said formally. Our world gives many valuable materials to the council, but receives little in return. The chamber was silent. Then Vexthar spoke with a cold smile. Earth should be grateful for council protection and guidance. Your petition is denied. Perhaps in another century, when humans have learned more patience, we might reconsider. Many council members laughed. They had heard this same exchange many times before with other young species. It was exactly what the team had expected. As Becker appeared to accept the rejection with a bow, Shaw moved quietly to a small control panel. Using access codes provided by their Verasian ally, she connected to the chamber's validation system. Shaw's heart raced as she entered their carefully crafted statement into the system. Would it work? Or would the alarm sound, exposing their plan? She pressed the final key and held her breath. The grand chamber fell silent as something unexpected happened. The main display screen lit up with strange symbols. These were words in Galactic Standard, the official language of the Council, but they had not been spoken by any of the official speakers. The council members looked confused. Senior Counselor Vexthar's smile disappeared. He turned to his assistants, who were checking their control panels with worried faces. What is happening? Vexthar demanded. Who activated the chamber's display system? No one answered. The symbols on the screen shifted and changed, forming a complete statement. The chamber's translation system began to work, converting the statement into the language of each species present. Shaw watched nervously from her position near the back of the chamber. Her modified statement was now visible to everyone. The chamber system was analyzing it, checking if it was truly a new fundamental axiom of governance. The translation appeared in English on the small screen in front of Becker and the human delegation. The authority to govern derives not from historical precedent, but from the continuous consent of the governed. Any system that claims otherwise undermines its own legitimacy. The chamber system continued to process the statement. Lights blinked on control panels throughout the room. Council officials rushed to their stations, trying to understand what was happening. Then a soft chime sounded, the signal that the chamber's validation system had made a decision. The statement was framed in a glowing blue light on the main display. Below it, words appeared in all languages. Need you do if you in me and tail exidom of Galactic GOVERNANC recognized and oricuorded. Shouting broke out across the chamber. The older council members rose from their seats, demanding explanations. Vexthar's face showed first confusion, then anger, as he realized what had happened. This is a trick, he shouted. The system has been compromised. Deactivate the chamber's validation protocols immediately. A Xylonian technician replied nervously, Sir, we cannot. The statement has already been validated and entered into the official record. According to council law, this cannot be undone without a full council vote. Then we will vote now, Vexthar said. This statement clearly does not qualify as a fundamental axiom. An old council member from the Juridicar species stood slowly. The Juridicars were experts on council law, having helped write much of it thousands of years ago. I must remind the senior counselor, the Juridicar said in a formal voice, that to reject a validated axiom would require us to invalidate the entire validation system that has been the foundation of council law for over 30,000 years. The chamber grew quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. The council's legal system was built on rigid adherence to precedent and procedure. To break their own rules now would damage the very foundation of their authority. Becker saw his moment and stood. The delegation from Earth notes that according to council law, Section 12, Paragraph 7, any species that contributes a new fundamental axiom of governance automatically qualifies for full membership status. Vexthar stared at Becker with cold eyes. This statement came from humans. Yes, Becker replied calmly. And as Earth is now entitled to full membership, I formally request that our status be updated immediately, as required by Council law. Before Vexthar could respond, another voice called out from the upper levels of the chamber. It was Thelari of the Nelverans. The Nelveran people also petitioned for full membership, based on the new axiom, which states that governance requires the consent of the governed. We have never consented to permanent protectorate status. More voices joined in. Representatives from the Verasians, the Keldtar, and other protectorate species all made the same claim. The Liberation Compact was acting together, just as planned. The chamber erupted in chaos. The Council had ruled the stars for 40,000 years. Now, in a single moment, their system of control was falling apart. And it had begun with a simple statement from humanity. In the months that followed what became known as the Human Declaration, the Galactic Council changed forever. The Chamber's validation of the new axiom could not be undone without destroying the legal system that had governed the galaxy for 40,000 years. Earth was formally recognized as a full Council member. Ambassador Becker used this new position immediately, introducing a motion to review the status of all protectorate species. The older Council members fought against this, but they found themselves trapped by their own rules. The Liberation Compact species, after centuries or thousands of years of waiting, finally had a voice. They presented evidence of how they had been kept as protectorates through tricks and legal traps. Many younger Council species, hearing these stories for the first time, sided with the former protectorates. On Earth, the news of their victory was met with joy and amazement. Few humans had realized how close they had come to becoming just another exploited world. The Lufol team was honored in private ceremonies, though the full story of what they had done remained secret for many years. Dr. Shaw was appointed as Earth's first counselor, representing humanity in the new council system. The Galactic Studies Institute in Geneva grew into a center for interspecies law and governance. Students from hundreds of worlds came to learn there. The council was not evil, Shaw explained to her students one day. They simply became too comfortable with their power. Over time, they forgot that true authority must come from those being governed, not from tradition alone. The older council species, including the Exilonians, initially resisted the changes. They had ruled for so long that they could not imagine any other way. Senior Counselor Vexthar retired in protest, refusing to sit in a chamber where former protectorates had equal votes. But other Xilonians, particularly younger ones, began to see benefits in the new system. Fresh ideas and perspectives flowed from the newly empowered species. Problems that had gone unsolved for centuries suddenly found solutions through cooperation. 5 years after the Human Declaration, a young Xilonian diplomat named Kelfar visited Earth. He met with William Carter, who had retired to a small house by a lake. "Our historians are rewriting our understanding of the past," Kelfar told Carter. "We were taught that the Council created peace and stability. Now we see that we also created stagnation. Your species showed us a better way." Carter smiled but said nothing. He knew that humanity had not invented the idea that people should have a say in their own governance. The idea was as old as human civilization itself. They had simply brought it to the stars when it was needed most. The Liberation Compact eventually included over 50 formerly protectorate species. Together, they worked to heal the damage done by centuries of exploitation. Worlds that had been reduced to mines and farms began to rebuild their cultures and societies. In the Grand Chamber, a plaque was placed bearing the Human Declaration in all council languages. The authority to govern derives not from historical precedent, but from the continuous consent of the governed. Any system that claims otherwise undermines its own legitimacy. Below it, a smaller inscription read, "Spoken by humanity, heard by the galaxy." 1,000 years of council rule had been overturned not through violence or rebellion, but through the power of words and ideas. Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't technological innovation or military might, but a fundamental idea: that governance should serve all species equally, not preserve the power of the few over the many. As Lisa Howard finished writing the official history of the Human Declaration, she ended with words that would be read by students across the galaxy for generations to come. The Galactic Council ruled the stars until humanity spoke, and when humanity's voice was finally heard, the stars themselves seemed brighter, a galaxy of possibilities opening before all species together.